What is going on, Movie Meals? Movie Meals, I got a lightsaber. This is the old one, beat up. This is the old one back in the day when lightsabers used to give you welts if you were good enough. And we're here to talk Obi-Wan. Before we get into it, thank you, Movie Meal patrons, Kimberly and Karen. Go get some Movie Meal merch. I'll link down in the description. Guys, we started a podcast, Patreon exclusive. It drops on Mondays. Go join. $1 is the tier to get access to the podcast. We talk about everything in the world of entertainment. Last week we talked a lot about some Star Wars news. I'm sure that'll happen again with just Star Wars Celebration just having happened, but we'll talk about everything. We talked about other movies out. We talked about kind of the state of reactionary producers in that episode. Some clip outs will be out the following Monday. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share. Go to the Patreon. Go follow the link. Copy, paste it, and move. But we're going to talk all spoilers here for Obi-Wan Kenobi. We've watched episodes 1 and 2, part 1 and part 2. So let's just get into it. Kyle said, "Al, why don't you go first?" And I refuse. So Kyle, what'd you think of this? We can talk about either episode. We're talking about both. Just what did you think of the first 2 episodes of my boy, favorite character of all time? What'd you think?
I thought it was a terrific start to this show, which really makes me happy because I'm with you. I think he is probably one of my favorite characters of Star Wars, and I really want to see a story being told about him done very well. And so far, I think Deborah Chow, who's the showrunner, the director on this, she's done a really great job at laying the groundwork for potentially like one of the better Star Wars series that we've had. For one thing, I really like that it really sets the dire nature of what was going on in between episodes 3 and 4, to where the Jedi are gone, the Sith have risen, and everyone is afraid all the time. Nothing seems joyful, which Star Wars, granted, should be joyful to a degree, but when it comes to this timeline, I think it really suits it well, especially for seeing Obi-Wan again, seeing him 10 years from the events of the third movie in the prequel series. We see that he kind of is traumatized from the experience. Like he had to, well, he thought he killed his best friend who was turning to the dark side. All of his comrades around him were killed, and everything that he knew was kind of abandoned 10 years later. And you can just feel it within him that it kind of caused him to age some. And granted, it's not going to be, the type of transition that seems legitimate from what we see of him now towards the Alec Guinness.
Alec Baldwin, get out of here.
Alec Baldwin, definitely not Alec Baldwin, but it's definitely not that type of transition. But just in his mentality, in the way that he carries himself, I think that it really works, and it still feels like Obi-Wan that we've known from Ewan McGregor's portrayal, but it just feels like a more battered down version, which I really liked, and the rest of the show kind of feels that too, but with a little bit of hopefulness once he starts rescuing a young Leia, which was an aspect of the show that I didn't see coming, but it really works. And I think Alex is going to explain a lot of why he really likes it. But I think it's going to work for this show because it's a dynamic that we've never seen in Star Wars, even for regardless of the age of Leia. We just have never seen her really interact with Obi-Wan. And the movies, especially the originals, focused a lot on Obi-Wan introducing Luke to the Force, but I just want to, and we've seen them being able to talk to each other because of the trilogy, the original trilogy, but I'm very curious about how Leia's going to impact him and how that's going to tie into what we know of Obi-Wan and Luke's relationship in A New Hope. Maybe it doesn't really do much, but at least for Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Obi-Wan, I think it's really going to be nice for that character. But I think Deborah Chow just did a really great job of laying the groundwork for potentially a great show. I really hope that it keeps going because with Disney Plus shows, they just tend to start off high and then they, to me, it's kind of up and down and then it doesn't really have a satisfying conclusion. So I'm really hoping this one does it. But at least for these 2 episodes and for the groundwork they're laying out, I think we got ourselves a really good show so far, and I'm really hoping that continues.
Did you feel that way with Mandalorian, or is that an exception to the ending thing you said there of the Disney Plus shows not having great endings?
I would say Mandalorian and WandaVision for me, those worked, and kind of Falcon and Winter Soldier. No, sorry, not Falcon and Winter Soldier. Probably Loki. I really liked. I remember really enjoying that ending. But I think for Disney Plus shows, they kind of just have that pattern.
Yeah. Um, Hats off for me for Deborah Chow. I mean, she is amazing. I know that this show they stopped production for a while and like they took like a lot of time off, not just because of the pandemic. There was apparently creative differences and all this stuff. I wonder, what that is after watching. But Obi-Wan Kenobi for me has always been my favorite character in Star Wars. I adored him in the prequels, and that's what I was exposed to as a kid. Right away was the Darth Maul fight. That was the first ever Star Wars I had really ever seen, and then I watched the original trilogy, and then I watched the prequels as they were coming out in theaters. Episode 2 and 3. But I love Obi-Wan. When we would play with this that I've had forever, and my brother's is up there too, but as we would play with them forever, like I was always Obi-Wan. He was my guy. So the fans and me at the forefront have been screaming that we need an Obi-Wan thing. We need something with Obi-Wan. It made no sense. He was immediately when Lucasfilm was bought, they started asking Ewan McGregor, and he was like, I would love to do it. He's like, that sounds amazing. I would love to do it. I want to do it. And everyone was like, why aren't we doing this? Why are we doing a Boba Fett movie? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And we finally get it. I love the interviews we've seen with all of them saying how much they have loved coming back, and I think you felt it in these first 2 episodes. The first episode really is just, where is Obi-Wan at this time? And I love that. I love that he's just working. It's very, here's what I do every day, all day kind of mentality. I love that he's got like an R2 unit under the sand or whatever that pops in and lets him know of intruders. He's living in a cave. He's not in his house yet that he has in episode 4. He does have a lot of aging to do between, or maybe not a lot of aging, but a good amount of white. I think people forget how young Alec Guinness actually was. I think they view him as like a 90-year-old, guy on his deathbed, but he was a little more spry than people were giving him credit for.
It's not a
And I
big
wonder
deal
if,
anyway. Like, just you gotta suspend that disbelief just because they weren't planning on Obi-Wan shows or prequels at that time. So it is what it
yeah.
is.
And I wonder, there's a simple way to make it happen. He gets hit with a little bit of force lightning, and instead of him turning into a decrepit, old, wrinkly man like the Emperor, he goes a little whiter,
Yeah,
in the beard
doesn't
and
need to be
everything.
explained, but
No,
you know,
but you're right. That is where you suspend your disbelief. But um, the scene of Owen with Joel Edgerton coming back, and it's in the trailer, but I can't get over it when he first of all, that's the toy Luke is playing with in episode 4, and I love that that's something that Obi-Wan gave him. I think that's just that is a nice nod. That is fan service done correctly and right, where most people don't even remember it until they've rewatched all the movies. But I love that he throws him back and he's like, stay away. They've probably had that conversation a million times over the last 10 years. And I love when he's just like, the boy must be trained. We talked about this. And he's like you trained his father. And I love how sassy he gets. I'm here for it. And that scene was awesome because then, we know Owen's surviving. We know Obi-Wan is surviving, but I felt tension when the Inquisitors show up and they're interrogating Owen and they can sense that he might know something. And I really liked that scene. I thought it was very powerful. I thought it built tension, and when you're able to build tension when we know they're going to survive, that is the sign of great direction and great writing and great performances in a scene. And I adored what they did there. I think the actress who plays young Leia is phenomenal. That's exactly how I have always viewed a young Leia. She's a very Padme, she's a very Carrie Fisher as Leia, and I'm here for it. The scene in episode 2 where he says, "You remind me of somebody." A lot of people on Twitter were like, "That's Satine from the Clone Wars, his lover." No, it's clearly Padme. It's clearly Padme.
the line
And
afterward, doesn't he? No, never mind. He doesn't mention her by name. Never mind.
no, but
But
she
that's a
does
weird
ask, "Is
assumption
that a
anyway.
Jedi?" She
Yeah.
does say, "Was that a Jedi?" And he goes, "No." Um, what did he say? Like a friend or something like that. And that makes more sense. there was a lot of good in this show. I do think there are a couple wonky moments here and there. There was a shot that I didn't think looked as great, or we would switch to an angle on the camera, like in episode 2 when when our Inquisitor is flying through the air, jumping from building to building using the Force. Some of those shots I was like, this is awesome. And then some of the shots I was like, oh, she's on
Parkour.
wires. Yeah, very parkour. But there were some scenes I really liked when she pushes down the like metal rod to land. I thought I can never say his name. Najil Nanjiani, is that, did I say it correctly or butcher it?
Oh, Kumail Nanjiani,
Camille Nanjiani. I thought
I
he was
believe. Yeah.
awesome. And I thought he fit in this universe great. At first I was like, uh-oh, are we gonna get too slapsticky for Star Wars, which has been a problem with some of these sequels they've made. And
Mhm.
at first I it did not come across that way. And when Obi-Wan kind of gets the one up on him, and then later when he helps him and he's like, look, I am trying to do good. I don't like the Empire. You are a Jedi Knight. Like, I want you to win. I want you to get out of here. I loved that scene. Um, when the Inquisitor finds him and Obi-Wan is about to accept that he has to fight and go back to his old ways. I mean, he is not in his old ways. He's very Luke in Last Jedi-esque, where he's cut himself off quite a bit, or he has been cut off because of maybe how he is treating other Jedi. I mean, in episode 1, a Jedi comes to him and says, I need help. And he says, I cannot help you. I am here on a mission, which I think is very Obi-Wan. He's very honorable. He's an honorable guy. He sticks to the code in the Clone Wars show. He sticks to the code in the prequels. And I have always appreciated that about him. And so I love that Leia is what gets him to leave. Some of the books in Legends that I've loved so much were about Obi-Wan leaving the planet to save a Jedi here and there. And I love that he stuck to his honor here and what his mission was until until Bail Organa. I love that they all came back. Till Bail Organa shows up on Tatooine and says, look, she's not only my daughter, but she is one half of who you chose to protect. You may have said, I will watch over the boy, but you need to help me now because I can't do it. I don't trust anyone else. You're the only person. I think that is so smart, so clever of a way to get us to get him off the planet. And I think it makes more sense for his character. Will she stay off? Is she going to be a part of this the whole way, like a Grogu situation? I don't think so. I think she'll get returned to Alderaan maybe in the next episode. But now he's out there, and now bounty hunters know about him, and now people know he's alive. And speaking of people being alive, Anakin's alive, and he finds out
He's
about it.
alive?
He thinks he killed him. And that shot, I mean, what did you think of that shot when he's hearing her yell, Anakin Skywalker is alive, Darth Vader is alive, and I am going to bring you to him? I loved the performance. Just Ian McGregor's face. He did a phenomenal job showing the pain, the torment, yet happiness that his friend was alive. I thought you could even see that in his face in that moment. What did you think of just take a break from me, Kyle. Bring some context.
No, I echo you about that scene. That was probably one of my favorite ones so far in the show. Because it did feel like there was a bit of confliction within how he was feeling, and I really appreciated
Mm-hmm.
it. Far more than just a different way that they could have gone in explaining how he was feeling. But um, yeah, no, I really liked it as well. I don't think I have any further thoughts because you explained it so perfectly.
So I will bring up the Grand Inquisitor. So as far as I am pretty sure, it's the same one from the Clone Wars or the Rebel show. People got really mad, I remember, when they first saw him in the trailer, because in Rebels, he's got a pretty narrow head. It's like a tall alien head. And in this one, he just has a human head that's obviously makeup and whatnot to be an alien head, but it's not
Right.
slender. So people got really mad at that.
Hmm.
And because of course Star Wars fans have to get mad at stupid things. I thought the Inquisitors were a bit goofy in this. I thought some of the motivation was a bit mustache twirly, and it did not bother me because I know that the real threat who shows up in the last scene is coming. And that's what I care about more. And at times, the Inquisitors felt a little cartoony. First time I saw him was on a cartoon. So I'm okay with it. A little funky stuff here and there in these first 2 episodes, but overall, it worked for me. I mean, the show was awesome. Um, Did you ever watching the show think, man, this would have been cool on the big screen? Not necessarily that it needed to be a movie, but just I'd love to watch this Obi-Wan show on the big screen. You ever have that thought? I did.
Not for this show, but I understand why. I mean, obviously they are filmed very great, and there was talks about Obi-Wan being a movie for a while too. So there's always that what if of it all. But yeah. I mean, would it have been cool on a big screen? Yeah, it would have
They
been.
need to
But
release these shows and movies. They'll make it just they need to do it. You put these episodes like Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead would do in movie theaters and people go. They go and you make a lot of
yeah,
money.
what a
But
concept.
yeah, this show I don't want to wait. I want it now, and I do want to wait because the Netflix format is failing. It does not work. We're going to talk about Obi-Wan for the next month and a half, and I'm here for it, or the next month because I guess there's 6
Hmm.
episodes. They were both an hour long, so they felt good. The pacing was good. I really loved everything about this. That was just so good. He's so broken. You can see that we got to talk about this. He wakes up from a nightmare in episode 1 and he says, "Master Qui-Gon, are you out there?"
Yeah.
And it's been 10 years. The last thing we saw was Yoda saying, "I have training for
Excuse me.
you on Tatooine." I would assume that he's already contacted Qui-Gon. He's learned from Qui-Gon. But I wonder as the years have gone on and he is less and less a Jedi. You know what I mean? Like in the first couple years, he's like, all right, I got this training to do with Master Yoda. I've contacted Qui-Gon. Maybe he finished the training, and then he slowly, is like, okay, I can't be a Jedi anymore. Blah blah blah. And then slowly the Force cuts him off, or he cuts himself off from his Force powers. Like even when he catches Leia at the end, and I loved that moment. Them running through the streets was awesome. I thought it's funny. It was intense. I really liked it. Him running around almost having a heart attack because Leia's losing her mind. I loved it. I love the whole how old are you? 10? When you don't talk like a 10-year-old. Thank you. Like I
Yeah.
just thought that was all great.
Yeah, that was
Um
nice.
but when he catches her, he's struggling. We all think that it's going to be this big moment where he'll just reach out his hand, the score's going to go like, whoosh, and she'll just freeze, and he'll catch her. But
Mm.
no, she almost fell. He almost did not catch her. And it took a lot of effort for him to do that. And I love that because that's so in line with George. Anyone who knows Star Wars well enough knows that George Lucas has always talked about the Force um, as yoga. He always has talked about how it's like yoga, that some people are naturally more flexible. They're going to do these insane things at yoga, but anybody really can learn yoga. And the more you practice at it, the better you get. That even people who, you know, feel like would never untap the Force if they actually practice and tried, they might be able to do a little bit. And so if you're not training, if you're not practicing, you're not going to be as flexible. And so I love that he's not as flexible in these moments. He's cut himself off. He's not training, and he has to get back into that routine. He has to get back into being a Jedi for it to all start to come back naturally. I really
Yeah.
appreciated that.
Yeah, plus also it just works for the nature of the story that we're in. There's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be tension, there's obviously supposed to be stakes, and if he was able just to turn the force on quickly and effortlessly, then it'd be like, oh, then we'd have no reason to worry. Like he's got this covered. There's no like learning curve. There's no
Yeah.
stake that he has to kind of rely on not using the force. Like it would just the show would probably feel a little meaningless at that point. So I'm glad that they went in the right direction of keeping with the tone and keeping the stakes in line. Because while yes, like we do see that he does still have the force, it's not going to be easy to get back into the swing of it. And I think it's going to help with
Mm-hmm.
the plot moving forward. So that part I appreciate. I wasn't really thinking about it in terms of lore like you were, but it also makes a good point though.
What do you think? So in that situation, talking about that, so that last shot, I got two questions for you. What did you think of the
Mhm.
last shot of him not, tuning out Leia as they escape, and him, the camera zooming in, and he just goes Anakin, and it immediately cuts to Hayden Christensen just obliterated in a bathtub tank and
Mhm.
opening his eyes. I thought that shot was incredible. I loved it. So I'm curious what your thoughts on that were. And then on the conversation topic of him not being in shape, but Vader is. He may be hurt, but it's been 10 years of him doing nothing but brutally kill people, going after Jedi and stuff. So do you think this fight that we're probably leading up to is going to be really one-sided? What do you think? Those are my two questions.
Hmm. I do like the final scene because it kind of is the same um feeling that I had when he first heard that Anakin is alive, which I thought was kind of a cool direction because I never really knew whether he did know at that time he was alive or not. I wasn't sure how those dots connected. But when they connected this way, it reminded me of that scene to where it had some emotional confliction within it. And it just kind of leaned into Vader being the overall thread of the Star Wars universe that he always is, and the fact that there's
Mm-hmm.
a personal connection that's going to happen between the two of them, and like one of the greatest movie villains ever. It only adds to it. It only adds
Mm-hmm.
to what I really like about this series as a starting point. So they both go hand in hand. They just work well with the story to me in the direction that it's going in, to where it's Obi-Wan kind of relearning the ways of the Force and himself, and learning to kind of accept what happened was
To be a
maybe
Jedi, yeah.
partially his fault, but maybe also partially out of his control at the same time. And it's going to be a really cool moment, I think, bringing those two together. Will it be one sided? I'm not too sure. I almost wonder if this is going to happen in like the final episode or the second to last episode, to where Obi-Wan might be a little bit stronger. So that way the fight might be a bit more epic and might be something to earn for the audiences. And I'm sure that this will be a case to where Obi-Wan obviously escapes, but it might be a much tougher escape as compared to the last time they went hand
Yeah,
in hand. So,
and Vader, when they fight in episode 4, he says something like something about how now I am the master. Last time we met or whatever, like you were the master, but now am I.
yeah.
He says not word, that's not word for word. I just can't remember the exact quote off the top of my head, but
But
he
it's
says
been a talking point leading up to
mhm.
this show for sure, because I think there have been fans that have been thinking about that line and like, is it going to be retconned kind of? Is it going to tie in with the movie? And I think for the sake of the show, it might have to be retconned slightly. Plus, also, you don't really have to think about it that deeply, I guess. Like, maybe Darth Vader years later does think he's more of a master than he was years ago when he faces off against Obi-Wan in this show. So it's probably going to be retcon slightly, and I'm sure, well, let's hope that it will be fine of a retcon.
So the line, I looked it up. The line is when I because I just couldn't remember it word
Yeah,
for word, but it's when I
yeah.
left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. But he says when I left you. And I think that's what a lot of people have thought that forever. Like, he says when I left you, and some fans have been like, it's not going to, some fans think it won't be retcon because that's the way Vader words it, because he says when I left you, but Obi-Wan left him to die. So they think at some point they had to meet again, where whether he loses or wins, Vader's the one to leave. And maybe this fight will not
Mm,
retcon this line, and maybe what it'll do is, maybe it'll be a draw. I wonder if that is more likely, that the two of them, that a weaker Obi-Wan and a primed up Vader maybe end in a draw. And maybe I wonder if the conversation during the fight will be, you're not a master, you weren't a master, you never were, and then you won't ever be one because of blah blah blah. Like if Obi-Wan says things like that, and then they have their duel, and then Vader leaves, and then when they see each other in A New Hope, then when he says the line, but I was the learner then, and maybe that line could have a lot more weight if something like that happened, because then it would be Vader admitting that the last time they fought, he was still a learner and young and naive, but now he is a master Sith. And so that it could work. I get where the retcon thing
yeah.
comes into play, what you were talking about.
Hmm.
And right now, after 2 episodes, the way the fan service was, the way they were able to get Obi-Wan off world that felt so true to the character and everything, I think we're in pretty good hands. And I've always wondered if the fight and a lot of the Vader Obi-Wan stuff is what the creative differences were over. And I always have wondered if maybe Kathy came in and was like, I want big spectacle, and Deborah going to John and Dave and just being an incredible filmmaker in her own and understands this world, having been on Mandalorian. I wonder if she goes, no, 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 it has to be this way. And I wonder if that's why there was halting, because they had to figure out some sort of compromise to make it big but stick with the story. Is my hope anyway. Oh, you never know with Kathy. We could get the greatest thing in the world, and we could get absolute poo poo.
Yeah.
But you got any other final thoughts here on just an absolutely incredible show? Stranger Things, what? Obi-Wan Kenobi's out. You know what I mean? Any other thoughts?
Really strong first two episodes, which makes me happy. Not all the Disney Plus shows have really hit the mark for me, and I'm really hoping Obi-Wan changes that because it's a really great start. And I think it's doing well for the time period that we're in for the Star Wars timeline, and also just for the character in that moment as well. So I'm really appreciative of that, and it's great to see Ewan McGregor back in this role as well. I'm curious to see about our villain Riva. I'm curious how that
Mm-hmm.
performance is going to progress. I like her so far. At least the actress is doing a good job. I think a lot of people online are kind of ragging on her a bit more than needed to. Let's just wait to see how the
They're
show
being
plays
toxic
out.
Star Wars fans.
Yeah,
Got to
I
be
would say
those ones.
so. I'm not going to give too many thoughts on that aspect. Beyond that, I want to see how the performance plays out because I'm really trusting Deborah Chow and her direction with this. So hopefully, it's just a long game type situation to where
Yeah.
once we see the end, like that character will be much stronger than it was at the beginning. But beyond that little tidbit, I just think the show is doing a really great job so far, and I hope it keeps it that way.
Yeah, I think you can tell because I do think there are some funkiness with her character, but it's not on the actress. I think she's doing a wonderful job, and it
Yeah.
feels a little bit more towards the writing and what Deborah wants to do, and that is fine. The Grand Inquisitor, I don't think is dead. He does get stabbed, and I love that moment because that is something an Inquisitor on the dark side would do. That is something a Sith would do. There's a reason there's not thousands of Sith anymore. They're greedy. They don't have a code that they live by. They want to one up each other. The whole point of the rule of two is a master to have power and an apprentice to crave it. Um, so I thought that scene was very, very Star Wars. I thought it worked. And I bet he's probably alive. I don't think they're retconning Rebels like everyone's saying. Um, and maybe it is a different Grand Inquisitor and we just don't know about it. But
That's what I assumed.
yeah, well. Um, all right, guys, what do you think of the show? Comment below, let us know. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Make I was gonna say something, just got a text that threw me off. Go join the podcast. New episode this Monday. Some clips will join on YouTube on Monday as well. Please, please, please go check that out. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Thank you, Moo Meal patrons. Go get some merch. And as always, thank you for watching, Mom.
See you guys.